y'all tell me if I'm tripping, but why are we bigging up Ant Edwards like he's this generational talent?
Because he is.
Like,
that's why.
I don't look. Ant Edwards is really good. He's really good.
Now let my boy get his take off because last time he said something about Tatum, he you know what I'm saying?
Ant Edwards is really good, bro. I really like Ant Edwards.
Not generational.
We've seen this player so many times.
I wouldn't call him generational.
We've seen this player so many times. That's why I'm confused.
And
who at 23?
I don't care. The age doesn't matter. Age doesn't matter. Age does not matter.
Take the age off.
Right,
who was Anthony Edwards 10 years ago?
What?
10 years ago. Okay, Anthony Edwards is he better than Dwayne Wade in Dwayne Wade's prime?
Dwayne Wade is a generational talent.
100%. 100%.
Dwayne Wade is a generational talent. Not only
Dwayne Wade won a championship in his third year, one of the best finals in an NBA.
I reserve.
That doesn't make you a generational talent.
There's a difference. If we're talking about just talent for talent, Victor Wembanyama, let's just clarify the definition. Victor Wembanyama is a generational talent.
100%.
His talent is, we know, is 101. It's a unique talent.
Sure.
But I think there's a difference between being a generational talent and being somebody who's done a generational thing for a young player. Dwayne Wade winning the championship in his third year and averaging 35 in the finals is a generational thing to do. I think Anthony Edwards.
It's history.
I think Anthony Edwards being with the Timberwolves for 5 years and winning more playoff games in 5 years than the entirety of the franchise existence before him is something generational for that franchise. He legitimately changed the Timberwolves franchise, and that cannot be ignored. He's went to back-to-back conference finals and
changed it. How?
They were a losing franchise before him, and he came in there. And now they're in the conference finals.
They still haven't won anything.
They're in the conference finals.
Is he a
when was the last time the Timberwolves were in the conference finals before last year when Anthony Edwards led the team?
Probably KG, right?
KG in 2004.
Back in 2004. It's been 20 years. And then he just did it again this year. And in the playoffs, he has great numbers. It's not like Anthony Edwards hasn't played one of the playoffs.
Is Tyrese Halliburton doing generational things?
I don't think Tyrese Halliburton is playing as well as Anthony Edwards in the playoffs in totality of their careers. I don't think he's played as well as Anthony Edwards. Absolutely not.
Mars, that's a good point, Mars. I like that one.
Generational player.
But has Tyrese Halliburton changed the Pacers franchise? Absolutely.
Yeah, and the Pacers.
Okay, everybody's changing franchise. Changed the franchise. They probably changed the Orlando.
Everybody's not changing franchise.
And what is
LaMelo
Shea?
Ball is not changing the Charlotte.
Shay's about to win MVP and just had a generational season.
I'm gonna give you that chill. But I'm saying there's a lot of players in the league right now that are generational.
There's a difference between a generational
and your definition that are generational.
How many players?
There's a difference between a generational talent and a generational player. You can have generational talent.
I like that. That's what you were saying. That's what you were saying.
Player. How are we going to be if Anthony Edwards keeps this up, right? Let's say he plays at this level for another 8 to 10 years. 10 years from now, we're still going to be talking about him. That's a generational player. We're not going to be talking about DeMar DeRozan like we're going to be talking about Anthony Edwards.
Why?
So.
Why?
Because Anthony Edwards is a better player.
You can't just say that. He has to win, though.
That's my point. He has to win something.
Okay, he's 23 years old. This is a fifth season,
and that's why I brought the age up because he's only 23. Back to back Western Conference Finals at 23. Who else did that?
10 years. If he goes 10 years and he doesn't win, then no.
Yo, who else did that?
We can project. Look, I have a problem. I have a problem in general. I have a problem in general with NBA media, NBA fans, NBA people, NBA whatever the shit may be. Sure. Keep my language. Whatever it may be. I have a problem with us crowning people too soon. I feel like we are in that age of doing that, and people are saying Edwards. Oh, I see Michael Jordan. Oh, I see Kobe. Oh, he has this mentality. Oh, he's doing this. Oh, he's doing that. There's no MVPs. There's no championships. He hasn't made it to the finals.
You're sitting here talking to me about crowning somebody, and I'm listening to you dudes tell me that if Jalen Brunson wins the NBA championship, he better than Walt Frazier.
Get him, chill.
You damn right. He better than Walt Frazier right now.
Chill.
You better than Walt Frazier right now.
He's a Knicks. You can't talk logic when it comes to the Knicks. When it comes to the Knicks, there's no logic. There's no logic with Knicks. You can't talk.
What Jalen Brunson is doing is generational for the Knicks.
For sure. For the Knicks, yes.
They haven't been to the conference finals in 25 years, and he led them there.
That's my point, but he's not a generational talent.
For the Knicks, he's been a godsend for them.
I know, but he's not a generational talent.
Okay.
So hold on. Let me get this straight.
Different things.
Your gripe.
Things are not the same.
Your gripe. The reason why you're annoyed at the Anthony Edwards stuff is because he's not Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant.
I'm annoyed because everybody keeps talking about him like he's the best thing since whatever.
He's one of the best young stars in the NBA. Would you disagree with that?
No.
So what's the problem? He's one of the best young stars in the NBA.
We're overpraising. There's not enough in the resume to support where we put him at.
Even though Jalen Brunson, if they win,
are we overpraising him? Like
ever.
What? So
in the 70 years of the New York,
and Edwards, let's be honest, this playoffs, and Edwards has been inconsistent. He hasn't been consistent.
Okay,
I agree with that.
Great. Neither has
Okay, that's my point. So when you're talking about people that have carried teams through a playoff gauntlet, when you're talking about teams that have carried teams to a final, Julius Randle has been the most consistent player for that team this playoffs.
Every playoffs, Kobe wasn't the most consistent either. I'm just saying.
I know he wasn't.
Every great player has.
I'm not going to sit here and say.
All I'm saying is Anthony Edwards. His rookie year, they weren't good. His second year, they made the playoffs. His third year, they made the playoffs. His fourth year, they made the conference finals. His fifth year, they made the conference finals. It's back-to-back years in the conference finals, and is that not worthy of praise?
It's worthy of praise. Like, yeah, good job. But at the end of the day, why am I going to sit here and be like, oh, man, Anthony Edwards, No, like, he's on a really good team. He has one of probably the best defensive player of our era right now. At least when it comes to accolades on his team, he's got an excellent wing defender in Jaden McDaniels who can take on the best matchup every single night. And now I'll give it to you. Edwards takes on the best matchup. I'm not going to sit here and say he doesn't. But what I'm going to sit here and say is we're giving Edwards all this praise like he's the one catapulting this team. This playoffs, he hasn't been.
He's the best player on that team, though.
He is the best player on this team, but he hasn't been playing the best. He hasn't been playing as the best player on that team.
He had 2 30-point games to close out the Warriors last series. The Warriors were injured. Yes, that was a cakewalk series because Steph was injured, but he can't control that. He had back-to-back 30-point games to close out that series. Game 5 versus the Lakers, he wasn't good. He was inconsistent. But Game 4, he had 40. I mean, Anthony Edwards overall, his worst postseason.
My point is that he's inconsistent.
His worst postseason is averaging 27 a night.
Which comes with being young. Which comes with being young, and we haven't.
I agree. I agree.
Anthony Edwards, but don't sit there like we don't have guys who are young, and we see the future with these guys. We do that.
I know, but you got to sit here saying you're putting Anthony Edwards above Jaylen Brown. You're putting Anthony Edwards above Donovan Mitchell. You're putting Anthony Edwards above all these
Anthony Edwards guards. Is better than Jaylen Brown.
I'm putting him above Jaylen Brown. Yes, I am.
He's 100% better than Jaylen Brown.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Skill wise, just skill wise, right?
Yes.
Absolutely, skill wise, he's better than him.
Okay, better than Jaylen Brown.
Okay, that's fair. But this isn't just a skill wise argument. That's the point of it. Like
so
Anthony Edwards has done more than Jaylen Brown. He has more All NBA appearances than Jaylen Brown. He's led.
Jaylen Brown has the Finals MVP. So
no, he does. But you can argue. You can argue based on impact.
Maxwell ain't better than Larry Bird.
Jason Tatum's defense. Jason Tatum's defense in the NBA Finals was much more impactful than Jaylen Brown's.
You fight that?
You don't want to get me started on that Jason Tatum train.
I don't know about that. All I want to say is that it's obviously context to the whole thing. And I hate having to do this, and you guys don't typically like this. But if Anthony Edwards is playing with the Celtics last year, they run to the finals too. They probably don't lose a game. So we know that that's the case.
Let's chill out on the
I'm using this to say, like, obviously you're saying that Jaylen Brown is, on that tier, and you would probably use the winning as the argument, but he had a bomb squad last year. I do want to ask you this, though, Los. Who are the generational talents in the NBA?
I mean, that are currently playing. Steph's a generational talent. Wemby's a generational talent. Bron's a generational talent. KD is a generational talent. Kyrie Irving is a generational talent.
You weren't coming into the NBA saying
Steph Curry was not a generational talent coming into.
I'm talking about right now. Who's a generational talent? That's what I'm talking about right now.
Steph Curry's a generational player. That's what he is. He's not a generational talent.
Steph Curry's not a generational talent.
When he came into the league. When Steph Curry came into the league, Steph Curry did not come into the league as a generational talent.
No, I'm not saying he did. You're asking me the question was who is a generational talent?
Chill is saying generational talent is what you are coming into the NBA, how you're viewed. That like pre-draft stock, basically.
Yeah, but Edwards is for sure not a generational talent.
Yeah, that generational player is what you become in the NBA. Like Jokic is a generational player, not a generational talent, is what Chill would say.
Yeah, but
So
that's nasty though, Chill.
Why?
Because Steph has a talent that literally is generational.
And it wasn't like that when he first showed
It
up.
was like that.
Generational.
He came into the league with that strap.
Basketball.
He was a generational.
I would argue. Being
Kyrie,
a generational
again,
player,
was everything
Kyrie
else.
Irving, generational talent.
being a generational player is way more important than being a generational talent.
I hate to step in and interrupt this intense yap session that you're currently watching, but I just have to inform you on all the amazing, spectacular, fabulous, endless ways to play and win over at Prize Picks. Basketball fans, I know the season is just tipping off. Yes, I know this. But you know what that means? It means that you have an opportunity to pick your favorite players and their matchups that are the most thrilling, and you can win money from these. With Prize Picks, you can play daily NBA contests and test your hoop knowledge by choosing the player projections and every single stat line imaginable to make your Prize Picks and take home some nice hard-earned cash. Are you a rookie in the game? Don't even sweat it. I got the playbook for you right here. All you have to do is download Prize Picks, use promo code PANEL, and you will get $50 instantly when you play 5 here with Prize Picks. So what are you waiting for? Download Prize Picks, use promo code PANEL, and join me as we break down all of our amazing daily picks right here on the panel. Prize Picks. Run your game, control your game, win your game. It's easy, baby. It's easy.
Because talent means that you might or you might not live up to it. Because I would say Zion was hyped up more than a lot of guys and viewed as
Zion's a generational talent.
Zion
talent.
is averaging 27 and 12 when he plays. Like, he's a generational talent.
He only plays 48% of his games. That's
I don't care. Joel Embiid does too. Ain't nobody. It is what it is. Like, it's
Zion
NBA
has
now.
not played a game in the playoffs yet. That's what I'm saying. Is that Zion has not lived up to that generational talent billing because he just hasn't been available for his team consistently.
But that goes against what you guys are saying with a generational talent and a generational player.
No, because what I'm saying is that while I said that I don't think Anthony Edwards is generational talent, I think what he's done for the Timberwolves has been generational. And right now, he's on a pathway. He's one of the 6 players, youngest players ever under 24 years old to reach 1,000 points in the playoffs. And you look at his playoff averages, he's top 5 in playoffs points per game in his first 35 playoff games. Yes, that is some great, remarkable company, and that deserves praise. So Zion could be more of a generational talent than him. I think Edwards is more of a generational player than Zion, even if Zion is more talented. So overall, I think it matters if you're a generational player more than a talent.
I'm not mad at
I just don't think Ant is either, but I just think he's great. So,
who? What'd you say, Morris?
I just don't think Ant is either one. I don't think he's a generational talent or player.
I don't either, but hey, I stated my piece.
Generational is reserved for very few people for me, so
I agree.
I'm not giving that to Anthony. Generational to me in the league right now, Steph, Bron, KD, they're generational. Jokic is generational. Giannis is generational.
I agree.
Wemby's a generational talent.
I agree.
Joel Embiid is a generational talent.
Agree.
That's about it. That's
so
about
he
it.
can. So with that, being said,
Luka's generational. Luka's generational.
100%.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
That's about it.
Can Anthony Edwards become that? Because again, these guys
can he become a generational player? Yeah. So
that's what I'm saying, Mars.
Is he going to be?
When Giannis showed up, we didn't think Giannis was a generational talent or player.
Yeah, he became that.
And he became that.
But that's my point. We allowed Giannis to become one.
People are saying Ant is right now. That's why.
That's my whole point.
That's literally my whole point.
A generational player. The reason why it's a difference because Giannis, if I'm not mistaken, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I think Giannis was the 16th pick in round 1. Ant was the number 1 overall pick in the draft. So number 1 overall picks are usually touted as either generational players or going to be that.
Yeah, Zachary Ricochet has not been touted.
It depends.
In the past,
no one say the words generational for Zachary Ricochet.
Yeah, this last draft was.
Let me rephrase that. So it's more. So is it fair to say that it's more often than not number 1 overall picks are supposed to be generational?
I would say 20 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. 20 years ago.
Good in some drafts.
Like Wemby obviously was, but Paolo wasn't seen as generational.
No, Paolo not generational. Anthony Bennett not generational.
Cage wasn't seen as generational.
Just because you're a number 1 pick doesn't make you generational. But I will say this about Anthony Edwards.
Zion was, so it just depends on the draft.
I agree with you, Mars. I think he's a great player. I think he's an elite level player, Anthony Edwards, and I think for what he's done at his age has been remarkable. And when he finishes his career on the pathway that he's on with multiple All-NBA teams, multiple All-Stars, with the playoff success, because I think he's gonna and his career with the championship at least. So I do think that for what he's going to accomplish, he could go down as one of the 5-6 best shooting guards in the history of the league. That's how talented I think Anthony Edwards is. Do I think he could finish higher on an all-time shooting guards ranking than Reggie Miller, than Ray Allen? I do think so. So I think Anthony Edwards has the potential to finish as a great player, as one of the greats. So that's why I view him so highly. And for what he's done at 23 years old, I think it has been remarkable. There's not many 23-year-olds that are top 10 players in the league. And he is that, and he's taken that leap. So I think he deserves credit.
Does that have to do with him being young, though? I mean, not him coming into the league so young. Because to your point, a lot of the 23-year-olds years in the past, I mean, they went to school and they came into the league a lot older. So I'm 25, I'm 26. So the fact that, you know, we have a league that's much younger today than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, where, you know, you came into the league at 21, 22 years old. I mean, I think that that's attributed to it. I don't want to take away from the fact that Anthony Edwards is still arguably a top 10 player in the league at 23, because you still have to perform at that level if you are that good. I won't argue that point. What I will say, though, Joe, is when I think about a generational player, I think about a guy, one, who later on, years later, how are we talking about him? Are we talking about him as the best guard or the best big or the best point guard? Because I think Anthony Edwards, by the time he's in his, because I don't think he's in his price, 23 years old. I don't think
not even close.
I think by the time we get to 26, 27, 28, I think he's going to be the best guard in the league. I think he's going to be the league MVP, and I think he can maintain that for some years. That's a generational player to me. When I think about players who do that.
Chill, being the best shooting guard in the league for 10 to 13 to 15 years, probably not 15, but like 10 to 12 years, what's more generational?
I'm not even going that, Ron, we don't even got to go to 10. Let's go 6 or 7 years. That's more than half a decade.
Well, I agree
player in the league in my position
with a lot of your points about
how weak your position is.
About the way you're projecting Anthony Edwards. I think
the two-guard position.
Fair.
I think it's got.
I agree. The two-guard position.
I think it's got 3 really good players. That's why.
I mean, we're looking at the 5th best player being like Desmond Bane at the 2-guard position.
Right, it's at the center position of the mid-20s. DeMarcus Cousins was maybe the best big in the league. He wasn't generational.
Yeah, there's 3 guys.
How long was he the best big in the league, though, Mars?
So he tore his Achilles.
Ooh.
So I don't know. What's up? 4 or 5 years maybe?
Even if you win with overall guards, though, it's 2 guards that you can really like definitively say is better than him. Who's the third guard?
Steph ain't better than him.
Oh, forgot about Steph. Well, Steph in a whole different tier right now.
You do that shit all the time about Steph Curry. Like,
the problem is we live in a hot take society, so people just like get off hot takes. We used to wait for people to like do something and get it done before we would anoint them to say certain things. But now people want to get it off and be the first to say it, so they can be like, "Oh, I said this and this happened." Like, no doubt. We as a society, he's right. We anoint people a little too soon, and we start saying, "Oh, he did this and this compared to this." Bro, we play in a different era. A lot of dudes is gonna get more stats than people in the past just because of the way the game is played. So it's kind of unfair sometimes to compare the stats and be like, "Oh, well, he did this," and nobody, because they're gonna get the opportunity to do stuff other people haven't done. I agree with you on the Anthony Edwards doing stuff for the Timberwolves, for that franchise that's never happened since like KG, who's giving them this sort of hope. So I agree. He can turn into a generational player, but saying it right now is a little too soon until he actually gets over this hump, bro. Because we don't know. He might not never be better than SGA. We saying he could be the best guard in the league. He might never be better than SGA. SGA could go on and win the NBA championship this year, get an MVP, a championship, and a Finals MVP. That's some generational shit. Why? Like when we saying just about Anthony Edwards, we have, you know what I'm saying? We got to wait a little bit and see how it plays out. And I feel like that's what we used to do, and now we don't do that no more. We just be like, "Oh, he's doing this."
That's a fair point.
I'm gonna just throw this in there real quick. I think why I got to that point of saying what I said about AE is because of the fact that you hear so much face of the league talk, and it's like just slow down a little bit. That's my point. But go ahead, brother. My fault.
Got the personality.
I think the reason why he gets propped up in face of the league talks is because I think he's one of the most, if not the most marketable young star in the NBA. And
he's relatable.
It's his personality. Exactly. I think he's very likable. Like if you made a poll right now, who's more likable, Shea or Anthony Edwards? I think Anthony Edwards might win that poll. Even though I really like Shea, and I think he's really marketable as well. But what the points you made is very valid. And right now, like if Anthony Edwards retired today, I think he'd be the second Timberwolves player all time. Now, that's not saying much given their franchise history. He'd probably only be behind Kevin Garnett. I do agree with you about the
5 years.
Better than Cat. I do think so.
Better than Cat.
Yeah, I do think so. I do think so. Yes,
I'll give it to him.
I do think so. I do think people are annoying people too fast. With that being said, while I agree with OG about saying where Anthony Edwards could end up in, I don't want to look past this series, number one. And how he played in game one was miserable in the second half. And I think he's too special of a player to play like that in this series. And if the Timberwolves have a chance to win this series, he has to play at an elite level or go band for band with Shea. It's as simple as that. And the defensive assignment for him is much tougher. The matchups that he's facing is much tougher, even though Shea's not facing any slouches either. OKC's defense is just number one in the league, but Anthony Edwards has to play way better than he played in game one. And if he has a series where it's a replica of game one for the majority of the series, then yes, I think we're going to go from Anthony Edwards being here to him being dropped down because of a very bad series against OKC, regardless of how great their defense is.
Yo, and I have to be consistent because I slandered Jokic for not playing up, for only shooting 9 shots in a game 7. So I have to do the same thing with Anthony Edwards. 1 shot, big dog.
In the second half, just one, Ron.
1 shot, big dog. He came out and made a statement, and he said, I know I have to be more aggressive. I have to shoot more. But that doesn't take away from the criticism that he needs to receive for that. 1 shot, dog.
Yeah. Y'all think the ankle has something to do with it?
Potentially, but
he hurt his ankle every game.
Right. We've seen him roll his ankle and come out and get busy.
And all the other times he got better after he rolled his ankle.
Did he do that against the Warriors and put 27 on them in the second half? If I'm not mistaken?
That man is so strong. Every time he roll his ankle, he never fall. I don't understand that. He roll his ankle and never collapse. I never understood that. But yeah.
I think it has something to do with it, but I think the lack of a development in his mid-range game is a bigger reason. I think Shea could dictate tempo because he could score from all 3 levels, and he lives inside the arc and inside the 3-point line, and he's just able to draw more doubles and triple teams towards him. Anthony Edwards is mostly become a perimeter-oriented player. He's taken 9 threes per game in the playoffs, and his finishing numbers have been below average. I think he should be a much better finisher, and he's not getting to the rim as nearly as much as I'd like him to get to the rim. And on long mid-range shots, he's shooting 9% these playoffs. It has been a very inefficient shot for him. And I think while he's taken a notable 3-point shooting leap, his lack of a mid-range shot and being able to consistently dissect defenses in that area is a big reason why he's able to be contained easier than someone like Shea, because he just doesn't pose that threat. I think right now he's just relying way too much from the 3, and Caruso and Cason Wallace and OKC's defenders, they did a really good job at staying in front of him, and he really had nowhere to go. And I thought he was very hesitant to even dribble inside the paint because of how OKC just swarms you, and they're always going for the ball and trying to steal it. So I thought Anthony Edwards needs to just play with more freely.
But Joe, to your point, I think he fell into what the game is today. I vividly remember last season in the beginning of the 23-24 season. I think the first 2 months, Anthony Edwards was shooting almost 48% in the mid-range. And then all of a sudden he just stopped shooting mid-range shots. And then now he lives at the long ball. I think he averages 12 long balls a game this season on average. And he very rarely plays in the mid-range. Now, I keep hearing Lo says this a lot about, how we comparing guys like Anthony Edwards, how we comparing guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We compare these guys to, like, who's the guy who Anthony Edwards gets compared to the most?
Jordan
lived in the mid-range. I don't understand why he don't play in the mid-range more. I don't.
He's not that good at it. That's why.
Well, that doesn't mean that you can't be. I don't understand.
Yeah, but you actually have to be good at it to start doing it. You don't just start doing it before you're good.
Okay, that's not true.
That's a bad idea. In the modern NBA, that's a bad idea.
Everybody that was good at some point was new, and they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, in the modern NBA, teams aren't just going to let you keep chucking up mid-range shots when you're bad at them. It's not going to happen.
And Anthony Edwards wasn't a great long ball shooter, but he got better at it.
Yeah, and then guess what? The volume went up as he got better at it.
I don't ever remember Anthony Edwards being this good as a long ball shooter.
10 threes a game as a rookie. He weren't just chucking 10 threes a game as a rookie. He came in this year chucking 10 threes a game. You know why? Because he was good enough at it to where the Timberwolves were like, hey, keep shooting him.
Well, he obviously was. And I just made the point that last year he was shooting for 2 months in the mid-range what he was doing. So he's obviously can do it. So why is he not doing that more? Because
October,
I feel like that's an expansion of his game that he hasn't tapped into yet.
Late October.
Yeah, it usually starts
like Halloween time or something like that.
So I'll say up until Christmas of last season, Ant shot 38% from mid-range.
So somebody lying, because the Minnesota Timberwolves, somebody lying to me, right? So this is what I'm talking about. This is what I mean when I talk about like looking up stats and getting them from this people and getting them from that people.
To your
somebody
defense,
lying to me because the Minnesota Timberwolves,
because I'm on cleaning the glass. I'm on cleaning the glass. In your defense, I'm about to defend. In your defense, because on cleaning the glass, it sorts between short mid-range shots and long mid-range shots. So the number I just gave you was all mid-range shots, which are like shots outside of like 4 or 5 feet.
Sure.
That was 38%. But if you only look at the long mid-range shots, he was 48%.
That's what I was talking about.
So there you go. Yeah. He was 48% in those long mid-range shots. He was 48%.
Yeah.
So he was losing it.
And to add on to that point, Anthony Edwards in the playoffs, because I feel like outside of this year, in almost every year, Anthony Edwards has taken a noticeable step up in the playoffs as a jump shooter compared to the regular season. And the numbers reflect that. In his first playoffs, he shot 62% on long mid-range shots, only 13 long mid-range shots, but that was in the first round. He didn't play after that. 45% on long mid-range shots in the first round series on 20 attempts. And then last playoffs, he shot 50% on long mid-range shots on 56 attempts, but this year it's 13% on 15 attempts. So last year in the playoffs, he was 50% on those long mid-range shots on pretty good volume. But this year, the shot just hasn't been there for him. So and Mars, he really hasn't looked for it either.
So, Mars, am I out of line when I think that a guy who sees what the game is today, and the game today is at the long ball line and in, a guy at the 2-guard spot who recognizes that I have to be able to shoot the long ball in order to thrive in this league, as opposed to my mid-range game can expand my long ball game if I do that. Because he clearly can shoot in the mid-range. It's obvious that he can shoot in the mid-range. Now, is he Jordan? Is he KD? Is he Bryant or DeMar DeRozan? I'm not going that far. No, I'm not doing that. But he can have a mid-range game that I feel like is respectable enough that once he taps into it, it can expand his long ball game and open up even more offense for him. But he doesn't go to it because I feel like he's gotten wrapped up in what today's game is if you don't shoot at the long ball line, then you're not going to be effective at all. Instead of tapping into that other stuff that he does, like shooting the mid-range more.
Yo, chill. I kind of want to live in reality though.
Sure.
The reality is Anthony Edwards doesn't shoot the mid-range, right?
He hasn't been good.
He's not high volume, but he's not good at it.
Okay, so he's not good at it, and he's not going to get good at it in the next 6 games. He might have a game where he's really feeling it.
He could get on the heater at the right time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he could get on the heater, but in reality, more than likely, he's going to be who he is. We do know that he's a very good 3-point shooter, but we also know that OKC is one of the stingiest and just nastiest defenses that we've ever seen.
Fact.
Him trying to navigate through that defense, somebody's going to get a deflection, somebody's going to force a turnover. It's going to be hell for him. My thing with Ant is, you have shown us throughout this whole season, we've seen a whole 82-game season, you was launching that shit, you was making that shit. In this series, I'm not mad at Ant shooting 14 threes. Get him up. If you can't get to the rim, if you can't get to a mid-range, get him up. I'm saying, like, so here's the thing. I see a couple of you guys shaking your head. Would you rather Ant shoot 14 threes and shoot 20 shots as opposed to him shooting 13 shots and Dante DiVincenzo shoots 12 threes?
I think
so would I rather Ant shoot the threes or DiVincenzo?
That's the point I'm making. Or Nickeil Alexander-Walker shoot 11 threes.
It depends on the quality of the shot, but more often than not, I'd rather Ant shoot the threes. But back to Chill's point about the first 2 months, he was shooting 48% on his long twos. His frequency didn't change the second half of the season. He just started missing it. Like he shot the same volume relative to his shot attempts. He just went from 48% before from the start of the season to December 31st.
Sure.
He was at 45%.
Yeah.
So up until the new year, he was 43 of 96, and he shot 16% of his shots from there. And then you move on from January 1st to the end of the season, he fell all the way down to 35% and 14% of his shots.
Change.
So the frequency didn't really change. The accuracy just fell off a cliff. He's just not that good of a mid-range shooter. Like anytime Ant shoots a mid-range shot, it's not a good shot.
Well,
like,
wait a minute, Mars.
Statistically, I'm saying it's not a good shot.
Can we attribute that? I mean, I don't think he was just missing shots because, and again, I didn't watch many Minnesota games. I did watch them some last year, but I'd like to think that it could be attributed to your shot selection too. So if I'm shooting in the mid range, we ain't factoring the shot clock going down. We're not factoring him having two guys hanging on him. We're not factoring him having just the shot quality. Because with him shooting in the mid range at 48%, like you said, if he's on a heater, well, I'm shooting different shots, and I might be looking at better shots, especially considering that it's earlier in the season. You know, teams are trying to figure things out. They're trying to figure out their defense. They're trying to figure out lineups. I got different guys on me, as opposed to when we get later on in the season. Well, now I got different matchups. My shot quality is going to be different. My shot selection is going to be different. So maybe my efficiency is going to go down. Now, don't get me wrong, Mars. My efficiency shouldn't go down 13%. No, I'm not saying that. But I'd like to think that some of it attributes to that.
I think also
I think Ant's shot selection in the mid range is fine. Like if you watch Ant shoot in the mid range and you don't know he sucks, I think you look at them like good shots. Like he's creating separation. He has really good footwork, really good counters. Like he raises up over the top of you so he can see over the top. It looks like good shot. He just misses a bunch of them. So I think generally you can attribute some to shot selection. Like if you're shooting really well, maybe you are more lenient with the shot selection because, like, hey, I'm like Steph Curry. Hey, I shoot really well. I'm gonna shoot some nonsense. Like I just can't. I don't think that's really the case with Ant. I just think he's just not very good at it. I think he just had a hot stretch. Like you look at his career, everything he's done in his career is more in line with the second half of last season, not the first 30 games where he was 48%. Everything else it says, yeah, he's a high 30s, low 40s mid-range shooter. That's from rookie year to the current day. That's really just what he is. So I'm gonna buy into that more than I'm gonna buy into anything.
I mean, as a mid-range shooter, if I could get Ant in the mid-range at 42%, I'm comfortable with that.
What does Minnesota have to do to win this series, though?
They got to shoot better, Joe. Like
Rudy got to rebound.
They got to get to the rim more.
We all just said different things. That's where Minnesota got a lot.
Well, I'm not like the Rudy Gobert rebounds and things. Like Minnesota didn't struggle on the glass, so like I don't.
But they have to dominate in some facet of the game in order to.
The issue they shot a lot of threes, so like the offensive rebounding opportunities weren't like as present as they would be if the Timberwolves were able to get to the rim as much. So they didn't get many offensive rebounds, which I guess you could look at Rudy for, which I'm fine with. But on the defensive glass, it's not like they were giving up second chances to OKC a whole lot. So like I don't really the rebounding thing for Rudy is like but the fact that they weren't getting to the rim at all, that's a problem. And I think Ant and Julius turned the ball over too much. And I don't want to see no more post-ups. I don't want to see no more post-ups.